Hi, I'm Representative Al Baldessaro, and this is the first show that we've done in a while. My good co-host, Representative Jeanine Nada from Merrimack. I always get that mistake, Merrimack, Merritt. But anyways, we're back.
Yes.
Right? And what we're doing, this show is called Who's Looking Out for You? And we got a great guest today, don't we?
We do, and you know, what a coincidence, because when I started out as a state representative, you were my chairman, and our vice chairman at the time is our guest today. She's running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District, and it's none other than the Honorable Lynne Blankenbeker.
Lynn, welcome to Londonderry.
Thank you.
It's an
Thank
honor
you
to
for
have
having
you
me.
here.
Blow you a kiss.
Yeah, you,
Yes, because you're way over there.
You know,
Yes.
what a lot of people don't know about Lynn, who's running for Congress. Lynn is a Navy Reserve captain. Okay, she's emergency room nurse.
And that's okay with you Marines.
That's okay with
Yes.
me because she's worked on Marines all the time. She's put us back together.
That's right.
You've done, what, 4 tours in
No, I did Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was mobilized for Iraqi freedom, and I served in Kandahar for Afghanistan.
Right.
So,
and you're the commanding officer right now of a unit.
a medical unit in San
medical
Diego. We
unit
have
in San Diego.
875 Navy Reserve medicine sailors ready to take care of Marines, just
Wow,
like you.
I love when a plan comes in. You know, and she's also a lawyer. I mean, what type of...
her resume goes. It's going to take
mean,
the
it's
whole show,
it's
so let's get
unbelievable.
through it.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
You just got the Navy commander. Is that what we
No, captain.
Captain.
I made you a commander.
That's
See?
okay.
Gave you a
Well,
promotion.
you demoted
So,
her.
a lawyer.
You did.
There goes my pen. But bloopers are fun on TV, especially
Yes. Mm-hmm.
when it's live to tape. And you were state representative. I know there's more.
Mom?
She's mom. Yeah.
Mom?
A
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah,
daughter
good
who's a
daughter.
lawyer.
Yes,
Lawyer.
my daughter's a lawyer, wife.
The
yeah,
nurse.
So, nurse, yeah.
Oh, nurse.
Now, see,
that's
I do
right.
have another show, Chatting with Jeanine, that's on Merrimack TV. I've been on the air since 2006, so you've been on a guest on my show before.
Yes,
and
yes.
one of those times that you came to Merrimack, we did a special on your time in Kandahar, where you had a slideshow of, you worked on dogs, you guys found a baby and took care of a baby, and I'm like, I want the baby, can I have her? And, and the soldiers, and
Yeah.
You know, I went to a couple of my trips to D.C. that I've gone to. I've actually stayed with Lynn. We've gone out to dinner, and she's given me a tour. She was stationed at the Pentagon,
yes.
and she was running the medical there for the Navy Reserves.
Right.
And she gave me a tour of the Pentagon. 22 years in the Marine Corps, first time.
Really?
Actually, going into the Pentagon it was
It's a
unbelievable.
fascinating place, isn't it?
It was
Right.
beautiful.
The same time you were there was a Colonel Nodder that somewhere else in the building. Then he's
But
in
you
our
know,
family.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Jeanine, you know what we go through as state representatives? Now, I know what she goes through as a military Navy captain. I have to ask this question. What made you decide to run for Congress?
You know, it's so funny because, like you said, I spent 5.5 years at the Pentagon and at the Defense Health Headquarters. And while I was there, a lot of my job was a legislative liaison and with Congress. And the dysfunction that's going on there, they're just, you know, it's a fractured body of people who cannot get along. The fact that they shut the government down in January over an issue that had nothing to do with the budget, it was over DACA, is just very telling. And so our Congress was very fractured, and I just really felt like that between my front row seat to the dysfunction and the fact that so many people here in New Hampshire were asking me to come home and run for this seat, they felt underrepresented. They felt like our delegation wasn't here.
Yeah, we do too.
And
We feel definitely underrepresented.
Yeah.
and I think with the problems with the VA, I think that was the icing on the cake, was when the Veterans Administration, the whole explosion there. Folks were just, you know, looking for somebody who was willing to step up to the mantle of leadership once again and try to make a positive change.
Now, you had mentioned the fracture in the government, so
Yes.
I mean, and you're a nurse, so it just seems
We're going to go there
fitting.
and
Yeah,
heal
there you
that
go.
up.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
The great thing about Lynn going to Washington, first of all, Annie Custer's been useless to us here in New Hampshire. You
to
have
agree.
the experience and understand the medical insurance aspect of the, the ACA, which is Obamacare. I mean, how are
The
we going to get
Unaffordable
that
Care
under
Act.
control? Because one of the complaints I get all the time, people paying $12,000 deductibles.
Oh, not even
Yes.
the deductibles, the premiums that you can't
yeah.
touch. I mean, we may have accessible care, but you know, as far as everybody can buy care, but it's not affordable by any stretch
it's
of the
not.
imagination. And even if you do purchase one of those plans, most people can't possibly use it because they can't afford the deductibles to get, you know, they're ridiculous, they're out of control. I think one of the things we have to do is open up state lines. You know, open that,
Oh,
allow people to
absolutely.
purchase insurance across state lines.
Let the free market take
Very
over,
I think that's
because
a
then
great
there's
idea.
competitive
Yeah.
pricing.
Yep,
The
yep.
prices
You know,
will
I
come
mean,
down.
just like me and you, and you know, I own a 20-year-old car. I don't carry comprehensive insurance on that car anymore. Why? Because it would be more expensive to carry comprehensive insurance, and if I wreck it, I'm going to get nothing out of it, right? So there's no return on that investment. Do I carry liability? Absolutely. I have, you know, there's a risk there. But I have the choice in my car insurance whether to carry full coverage, a little coverage. I buy the coverage I need, and we should be able to buy that as folks. You know, it's ridiculous that people out of childbearing age have to buy maternity riders or pay for reproductive services when those aren't things they're using. But now our children who are, you know, are young adults who want to start a family, of course they need those kinds of
Right.
insurance. So it's you shouldn't have to purchase a one-size-fits-all
Right, like-
insurance plan in New
Like
Hampshire.
Al doesn't need to go to the gynecologist, but yet I think under the Unaffordable Care Act, aren't they forced to buy that
Well,
service?
it's sort of
Right.
a one
One
size
size
fits
fits all.
Right.
And as women, and we go shopping, we know that one size
That
doesn't fit
all.
anyone.
No.
And you know what's a shame is with the many mandates that are being put on these insurance companies to fit into that package of the one
Yeah,
size fits
yeah.
all, everyone's premiums going up. New Hampshire, I think, what? It's gone up 38, 48%.
Oh my
Well,
God.
I know,
You know?
for my family, for me to go to the doctors, I can't go for a visit for less than $100. It's over $100 for one visit. So you know what? I just don't go.
Right, right. And I think that's what's happened. Most people don't go. It was surprising to me to learn of the number of folks under the mandate, which has now been lifted, thank goodness. I mean, that's one of the best things that came out of the Trump administration
Yes.
as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, when the mandate was there, many folks just paid the penalty because it was cheaper
That's right.
than...
My son is
That's
one
what
of
my
them.
son did too, my
then
adult son.
It was cheaper than purchasing the insurance that you couldn't access anyway.
Right.
So yeah, and I really think that I was surprised. I wish I had been in the state during the time, because I think the Affordable Care Act created an unconstitutional monopoly in the state of New Hampshire. Let's put my lawyer hat on. Given the fact that we were down to only one insurance company, and that was Anthem, that was covering it, so gave them full ability to charge whatever they wanted. And the risk pool was so diverse. It was from babies in the NICU all the way up to you know, the elderly population and everything in the middle. So,
Just for people who are watching that might not know what NICU means.
neonatal intensive care unit.
And then backing up from earlier, I wrote down DACA. There might be people that don't know what that is.
Well, that's the Dreamers, right?
Yeah, the
folks
Dreamers
that
that Obama put in place.
yeah, it was
illegally.
right. It was
Illegal.
for
It was unconstitutional.
those who
what
are
he did.
non-citizens to be
Right.
able to get their education paid for. So the Dreamers.
You know, there's one thing I have a concern. We have two senators, two congressmen. None of them even have a clue that New Hampshire has a constitution, okay? Because they're voting what goes on around the other country that has nothing to do with New Hampshire. You know, we got killings, guns, and everything else. New Hampshire's one of the safest states in the country. Are you going to bring New Hampshire Constitution with you to the state, to the Congress?
To Congress, well, I absolutely will look out for the Granite State interest. You know, I've said this over and over and over again. If it's a policy that's good for the Granite State, I'm going to vote for it. If it's a policy that's bad for the Granite State, I'm not going to vote for it. And, you know, I think
I carried them both, by the
There
Yes,
way.
you go.
and you have for years.
I have for years.
I think I gave you that copy.
And I would certainly support our governor and our state in their rights to be able to, you know, the 10th Amendment, to be able to exercise those rights under the 10th Amendment for the state. I certainly would support the governor in that, you know, because I think that's an important amendment. Our founding fathers put it in there for a reason, and that's exactly what it is. So we need to get the government out of our day-to-day lives. We're you know, the federal government has gotten into so much that they're not even supposed to be in, but yet they haven't passed a budget. That's written in the articles.
Balanced budget, that's right, yes.
That is written in the enumerated powers of our United States Constitution and gives that power to Congress. It's called the Tax and Spend Clause. And, you know, we hope that they tax less and spend less. You know, it doesn't mean tax more and spend more.
Do
But
you remember when we were all in the committee? I was the chair.
State and Federal Relations and
Veterans
Veterans
Affairs.
Affairs Committee.
Yeah.
All the many constitution resolutions, amendments
the
came to it.
resolutions, yes.
So there was
Those
one
are
there
always
that,
fun.
and I normally don't support Article 5, but there was one we supported, the
Yes.
balanced budget.
The balanced budget.
And we have in Washington that's been filed for the state of New Hampshire was the balanced budget. I voted against every other one since.
I have too, but I actually regret voting for that
Right,
one
I do
too
too,
because of
because
the whole convention.
I'm scared on opening up the Constitution.
Yeah.
When you go to Congress, can you help us out and maybe have Congress, without doing a convention, put in a amendment for a balanced budget? Because
So-
they have that power to do that under Article 5.
Well, the funny thing is there doesn't need to be an amendment for a balanced budget. It's a requirement. It's already written in there.
It's written law.
It's in the Constitution. It says that you know, I wish I had the language memorized, the verbiage memorized, but under the tax and spend clause, it says that they will tax and spend in a wisely manner.
Right.
That's called a balanced budget.
Yes.
That's what it's called. And so, you know, what I'd rather do is go to Congress and get Congress to do the job they're supposed to do. See, I love our Constitution so much, and I think our founding fathers did a great job. And while I appreciate the fact that they gave provisions to amend it, I really don't want to keep just piling on amendments. And we saw what happened when we put in prohibition, right? Prohibition was an amendment that we had to put in another amendment to take away prohibition. And before you know it, you get so many amendments that you know, you get lost in the document. So what I'd rather just see is us enforcing what's already there. It's like having to write another Second Amendment because people aren't following the Second Amendment
Right.
like they're supposed to
Well,
be
it's like
following.
New Hampshire.
Yeah,
Well,
right?
Let
As
me give you my
legislature.
concerns about saying we have to have a balanced budget. Okay, yes, it makes sense. It sounds good. But what if the only ways to balance that budget is to raise all the taxes so that it equals the spending?
Oh,
Can't do that. We have to cut. We have
Right,
to cut. to
right.
balance.
And I think you know, we were all in the House at the time we passed that historic budget. I mean,
Yes.
it's been years since we had a
11%?
budget.
Yeah,
right.
almost 900
years.
million we cut.
Yeah, and you know what? Our state is still great. Our state is still okay. People are still getting services.
The sky didn't fall.
The sky didn't fall. And you know, I think that one of the things that I really love about President Trump and what he's done is he has started putting some constraints on some of the social programs, the welfare, the food stamps, and he's starting to hold people accountable. And you know, it's sad when our you know, our disability programs further disable people because they take away your incentive to want to work. There are a lot of people out there who would like to have more money in their pockets, but they won't because they're afraid to get a job. They're afraid they'll lose the entitlement that they get, and so it just it keeps them in
And that's
poverty.
happened. There have been several
Right.
cases of that when they extended, they call it benefits. They didn't have to go get a job because they're getting that check in. Like, oh, I think I'll just wait. I'll just wait. They're going to keep sending me a check. I'll wait to look for a job till
Right.
that dries up and I have to. So in the meantime, all the taxpayers are supporting this able-bodied person who can work, but they chose not to because they were getting free money from the government, which comes from all of us.
Right, right. And so I think that, you know, just like you said, cutting, I think we need to take a hard look at those programs and see where the fat is, trim that fat right off. We need to do a reallocation of that money across the board and figure out where we're spending, where we're not spending enough, where we're spending too much. There is absolutely no reason to overtax people. We see that right now because the president just passed tax reform. Business is booming. Unemployment is at a
right.
record low. You know, our economy is better than it's ever been. You look at the Dow. You know, the stock market is the best. It's as stable. Well, it's not stable because it keeps going up.
Right, yeah.
right?
But
I
it's
mean,
got, what goes
right.
up got to come down too,
But,
so you got to be careful.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I think that our president is onto something where, you know, with accountability and responsibility and making folks, you know, be accountable, all of a sudden things start falling into place. Like, we didn't need to force a minimum wage. Walmart took care of that on their
That's
own
right, yes.
with some tax relief. And so we see
A
that.
lot of
Yeah.
businesses.
You're
have done
talking
that.
about
They
those
take-
crumbs
Oh, the crumbs.
that
The
Nancy
crumbs,
Pelosi
yes.
called crumbs?
Yes, yes, yeah, crumbs.
Yeah. No,
So-
do you support, like, the president, what he's doing on the tariffs and other stuff? I mean, I'm impressed what's going on in China coming to the table.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, you know,
I think our president's foreign policy has been really good. I mean, let's look at North Korea and South Korea. You know, the fact that they've come to the table and started talking is, in my mind, effectively the Berlin Wall coming down. I mean, you know, when we look at China and we
we
look
were
at
serving when that came
Yeah.
down. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Well, you know, when you look at China and North Korea as being major threats in a you know, the next battle, the fact that he can we'll never know if we never get into a war with China and North Korea or whoever, right? We are never going to know if what the president said, did, or tweeted was the thing that kept that
Or
from
tweeted.
happening, right? But it could be, right?
I'm not on Twitter. I have no idea what goes on in the
Do
world
you know,
of Twitterdom, and I don't care.
I've been tweeting for about 8 years. My wife taught me how to do it. And the reason why I've been doing it, and I'm controversial, I say things people only dream of saying. You know that.
I
No,
don't
no.
believe it.
But the thing is, it's the only way to get our message out to the people. Let them know the real facts instead of people putting cream, puff cream on there and oh, don't say that. We don't want them to know that. That's why I like Lynne Blankenbeker, because she tells it like it is. Which I mean, am I right?
That'll be the name of your show.
Yeah. Tell it like it is.
She tells
There
it
you
like
go.
it is. She don't hold back. I mean, that's why you're going to be awesome over
Thanks.
there.
Yeah. Well, I do think that it's time that we definitely start standing up for the Granite State. We sit over here in our little corner of the United States, and we've been forgotten. We've been forgotten for over 6 years. We right now our entire delegation doesn't represent.
It's an infestation of Democrats.
Right.
Well, and it doesn't represent the interests of conservative Republicans or those conservative values. And so we are so underrepresented in D.C. because when you have representatives who quote, say, I voted with Obama 99% of the time, that lets me know that that individual did not vote for her state. She voted for the platform, for her platform. And that may not necessarily be right for our state.
Right.
The New Hampshire is a very unique state. We're first in the nation. We pride ourselves in a lot of things. When I moved here in 1993 to raise my daughter, we moved, we're Flatlanders, right? I grew up in Florida. I was stationed in the military. We left California and we moved here. And we looked at every single state, all 48 lower states. And we looked at things like crime rate and quality of life and education. And we picked New Hampshire out of all 48 states because we thought this was the best place in the world to raise our daughter. We don't regret that decision, but it's changed a lot since 1993. Open any paper, U.S. News and World Report, look at Newsweek or Times or whatever. What do they always say? Best top 10 cities in the country. How many of those are in New Hampshire?
Right. That's true.
Right? That makes us unique. We're different. And we need to have that, and we're not being represented
So
right now.
I have to play the devil's advocate here and ask the question, because I know people are wondering, if your job is in San Diego, how do you manage to be a New Hampshire person? And
So I only do that one weekend a month. I'm a reservist. So for those folks who aren't familiar with what the reserves is, we are what we call weekend warriors. I like to consider ourselves twice the citizen. We have civilian jobs where we work just regular public or private sector jobs like everybody else, Monday through Friday, and then one weekend a month we put on a uniform and we train for what we're going to do in our military jobs. So that's why I'm able to be a nurse for the Navy and a lawyer in my civilian job. Many of your reservists, you'd be quite amazed at their resumes. We've got professors and who do very
We have
different.
congressmen too that are
We do
that
have
are already
congressmen.
Matter of fact, our Interior Secretary, Navy Commander, Zinke.
Yeah.
I think he's still a commander.
Well, Lindsey Graham was
yeah,
an Air
Lindsey
Force.
Graham,
Lindsey
that's
Graham
right.
was an Air Force
Yes.
reservist.
Yeah.
So we do have folks at General
Right.
Heck. He's a physician in the Army. He's I don't know if he's still serving, but we have had and still do have.
That's a
people.
dedication that I admire. I mean, because it's like me. I look at it. Why am I? Why do you do this? I served 22 years, but as a veteran, you want to just keep giving and giving and helping and making a difference. And I know you're the example of as many hours you put in the Navy and helping, putting people back together in war zones to come back here and want to make New Hampshire a better state.
Well, I think that public service. Anybody who joins the military, you have a son in the
I have
military.
3 sons in the military
Oh my
now,
gosh!
yes.
Oh my gosh! I've
Wow.
lost track of all
Yeah.
And I think when public service becomes part of your life, it's just something you can't give up. And I don't know about for you, but for me, asking you to take off the uniform when your time finally comes up and it's time
was
for
tough.
you to hand the sword over or pass the reins along to that person you've been grooming and mentoring for years to take your job. There's a little bit of anxiety with that, because you identify with that uniform and you identify with that public service. And I feel like it's one of the highest callings to serve in our United States military. Only 1%, less than 1% of people are in uniform right now. And I think that sets us uniquely apart from the rest of the 99% of the folks out there. Willingness to step up to that mantle of leadership and take on something bigger than yourself. And you don't, that's part of the fabric of who you are, that's part of your character. And so it's no wonder that folks like you and me, and now so many folks who are willing to try, who are making a go for Congress,
Right.
Who are veterans, we finally said enough is enough. You know, we've defended this nation on the battlefield for 16 years.
You ain't kidding,
And
trillions of dollars spent.
Right, and we are losing the battle in Congress right now. We need to go win that battle
Right.
too. We need to keep America great. We all fight for America, and we're losing it.
You know, since you're talking about the battle there, and you know, I was with Trump and traveled all around the country with President Trump.
Oh, he
But-
sees him in a crowd and calls him out. Oh,
but,
Al!
But my question to you is, and this is very near and dear to my heart because my Marines built the wall in San Diego, okay, when I was stationed in California. Are you going to help fund and push to get that wall built?
So I think that whether we have a literal wall or a figurative wall, the president's on the right track of getting our borders secure. They're porous, and we got bad stuff coming over that border, and we need to stop. I think we've seen in many times, you know, the Great Wall of China, the Berlin Wall. I mean, walls are effective. They
Right.
work.
Yes, they do.
keep people out, and they keep, you know, so
people in.
so I think they work. But I think we also, you know, President Trump did a great job mobilizing our National Guard right away and getting them out there. I think when he was, not to make a pun here, but when he was hitting a wall, trying to get the wall,
Right.
you know, I think he, you know, he saw that there were other ways that he could secure our borders, and he put the National Guard out there, which is exactly what they are trained to do. So that was wonderful. He got them out there. I also think that we have great electronic technology today that helps us, you know, I mean, my goodness, you can fly a drone outside a window here and it can key in on something very small on the table and duplicate it, whether it's an ID card or a
Right.
key, and they can make it and come break into your house, right? So we have this great electronic technology, and I think there are ways to secure the border too, electronically. So I think there's a multitude of ways, and I would support the president in securing our borders.
Now, you're our first guest since we started up the show again the first time in, 3 years, I think. So what I like to ask all the candidates, that especially the second CD, because you have to go all over the whole entire state.
Right.
What are the voters asking you? What are the #1 issues to the
So-
people you talk to?
Yeah, no, so I think folks are just feeling really underrepresented. They want to know how you're going to represent. Folks are very curious how to win this. How are you going to win this seat? You know, that seems to be a
Well, don't
question.
give that away. You have an idea.
I know, I was like, oh, I got to lay out my battle plan. But, you know, folks, I think folks are looking for reassurance. I think folks are confident that the seat is winnable. You know, CD2 has not been won by a Republican in 6 years, 3 terms. So, but I think, you know, and if you get caught up in this blue wave thing that
I think
is
that's a bunch of BS.
unsubstantiated.
I don't see that
pay
happen.
attention to any
You
of that
know,
stuff.
people can start every
Yeah.
kind of fad, right? It's like, do you hear Laurel or Yanni, right?
Right, yeah, I
Like,
think,
whatever the
Well, then
fad of the
Clinton,
day
Obama,
is.
I heard criminal.
right. No, you ain't kidding there.
You're right. So, you know, I think folks are wanting to hear how we're going to win this race, and I think they're looking for the confidence that we know we can do that. #2, I think folks are feeling underrepresented, and so they want, you know, they just want to have their voices heard. I'll be honest with you, most people just want their voices heard. For 6 years, they haven't had their voices heard, and when I get out, I do a very quick, my name is Lynne, this is what I'm running for. You know, I give a quick little spiel, and then I open the floor and let everybody talk, and it's amazing. Everybody talks because they haven't been heard in 6 years. They're begging to be heard. And so I think that that's a resounding theme. If there has been a school shooting, guns will come up. And most people just want us to protect their Second Amendment rights. And
And it's not
that
the
comes up.
law-abiding citizens that's the problem, you know?
No, because if they say no guns, then the law-abiding citizens are going to turn their guns in, but the criminals are not.
No.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because with your experience in mental health and other areas, you would be an asset in D.C. I'm sure you dealt with opioids
Oh,
issues and
yeah.
other stuff in the
Yeah.
military. You have any plan on maybe helping, like you did with the Navy Reserves, on those issues when you go to D.C.?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we've got a severe shortage of mental health providers in this nation, and I think that there's ways that you can incentivize folks to go into those fields, just like we're incentivizing our youth right now to go into those STEM, the science, technology, math, you know, majors. We can also encourage folks to go into the field of psychiatry and psychology, where we can provide more providers so that they have that
The bigger
that
question
assistance.
is, why do we have so many people that that have mental health problems.
Well, I mean, I think if we're talking about school shootings, look at the common theme. Most of them are boys. Most of them are boys without, significant father figures in their lives or parental. They've been disturbed for a long time, but they've slipped through the mental health cracks. They were bullied at school. They were outcasts. I mean, my sister is a person who is marching for the guns, right? And she wants and she feels like she wants to be part of the solution, and she feels like that's the place where the solution happens. But I ask her oftentimes, I say, did you look at what the really root cause of this is? It's not the gun. It's the child with the mental illness that needs some help. And why aren't we marching for that? Why aren't we marching for mental illness?
Right. No, I agree. Lynn, I'll tell you, you're going to be an asset to the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you.
I mean, most people really got to get to know you like we know you. And I was honored to have you as my vice chair. But now people watching this here, if they wanted to get in touch and help Lynne Blankenbeker, whether to send a donation or whether to work your campaign and help you and determine to make sure that CD2 has somebody represent them, how do they do that?
Blankenbeker.com, Blankenbeker, no C's.
No C, yes.
Right. Although I will admit, we bought the C domain too. We put a C in it so that if people got confused,
Right.
we'd get it still.
Well, before the show, I
right?
was talking to your staffer, and I spelled your name wrong, and I've known you for 8 years.
And I've done it too, and she was my vice chair.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it too there.
Well, he's called me Nautier for a long
Yeah, for a long time. Yeah, that's all. But as long as they know what I'm talking about, us Marine, it was easy in the Marine Corps. Come here, Marine.
Yeah,
Same thing in the sailor, right?
Yeah,
Come here, sailor.
sailor, come here.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So, but we got about 1 minute and 16 seconds. So what is your main goal that you're going to do when you get up there?
I'm going to bring civility to Congress so we can get the work done for the people and for the people of the Granite State. I've said this before. Doesn't matter, for those of us in the military, it doesn't matter what uniform we wear, it doesn't matter what color our skin is, our religious background, our political background. At the end of the day, we do one thing. We get together and we fight for this nation because we believe in America. And we defend our Constitution. And if 1 million people in uniform in your United States military can do that for you, 435 people in Congress can do that for you, and I'm going to go and make that happen.
Wow, I'm motivated just hearing that. What do you think about that?
Well, I have to stay neutral.
Huh? You have to stay neutral.
I have to
that's
stay
right.
neutral, so that means that I get to like all of our candidates.
No, I tell you, Lynn, when she got elected in Concord, a Democrat area, and I'm going to say this real quick, a lot of people counted her out, and she proved them wrong and won. Then she came back again. That was in a special election. Came back again and won again. There's no doubt in my mind, you going up against Andy Custer, who's been UA to everybody here, unauthorized absent.
There you
Nobody
go.
knows where she is. But Lynn, it's been an honor you
Thank you
coming
so
on
much.
here.
I'll
Thanks.
reach across this.
Yeah,
Yes,
reach it.
thank you,
There you go.
Jeanine.
And
Thanks.
once again, this is Who's Looking Out for You. We'll see you next week.